Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And as promised, I'm going to be doing a numerology, Kabbalah, and a little bit of astrology on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the second woman to be named to the Supreme Court, a icon of for women's rights, and someone who we just lost last week in her battle to pancreatic cancer. And she definitely fought for as long as she could. She has a very interesting chart. And actually, she has a lot of similar numbers to Donald Trump, which is interesting because it's an example of how people can use the numbers for the good as well as for the not so good. So let's take a look. We're going to look at, I think what I'm going to do first is, okay, we're going to start with her numerology and her Kabbalah. So let me pull that up. Share my screen. Here we go. All right, so this is her numerology right here. This is where the numbers fall in her tree of life. And I've also put where her planets fall on the tree of life, just for, just to show you that you can do that as well. So when we look, or when I look at a person, I take their name at birth. Ruth's name at birth was Joan Ruth Bader. And we take that vibration, that's the vibration that you come in on. We separate out the vowels and look for the soul vibration, which is the vibration of all the vowels added together. And then we look for the vibration of all the consonants, which is considered the outer personality or the outer masculine vibration. Soul is yin, the quiescent is yang, and the balance of those two are seen in the expression vibration, which is if we take these two vibrations and add them together to get a third vibration, which is how she balances her inner and outer self. It's also how she impresses herself upon the world. Now, I'm going to bring this just a tad closer for you guys. And when we add up her vowels, we actually get a 16-7 vibration. Now, the 7 vibration is a soul vibration, is a soul that's very introspective. The soul in general is considered very introspective in its energy moving in. When you add the 7, it's even more so. So people who have 7 souls are often mysteries even to themselves. And so there is a need for self-evaluation. There is a need for a constant analysis of feelings and experiences, so that the soul can understand what is going on with itself and how it reacts, how it responds, how it interacts with the energy that it faces, right? The 16-7 is actually the vibration of the Tower card. Okay, this is her soul. Incidentally, this is the same soul vibration as Donald Trump. And so we can see that you can use this soul vibration depending on your level of evolution for different reasons, different levels of expression, we'll call it, right? And so, but if we look at where it sits on the tree of life, and I'm just going to pull it over, we can see that the soul sits right here. This is where the Tower card sits on the tree of life. This is where Ruth Bader Ginsburg's soul sits, and this is where Donald Trump's soul sits on his tree of life. It is located energetically in the solar plexus. So these are people who have very strong wills. So if they want something, they are going to get it, but they're going to get it through they can get it through self-knowledge, or they can get it through sheer force. This is associated with this path The Tower card in the tarot is associated with Mars. And so what sign Mars is in will give us a lot of sort of information about how somebody uses their will. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has her Mars in Virgo, and she would use her will to study, to understand, to analyze, to heal, to be of service to humanity. That's very much a Virgo thing. Whereas Donald Trump has his Mars in Leo. And so for the most part, he just serves himself. Okay. So we can see that even though somebody shares a vibration, they may not express that vibration. That's why you have to sort of bring it all together. Now, if we go over and look at her outer personality vibration or her consonants, we add it together and we get a 40/4 vibration. The 40/4 is actually the Page of Cups. 4 as a vibration is about the builder. So there's always an energy of building when you have a 4. It's also an energy of crisis. And so she is a builder, especially when there is a crisis, right? So she is able to navigate within the crisis. Now, the 40/4 is a 4 with a 0 after it. Whenever you see a 0, it kind of acts like a God force, making that 4 act more like a master number. And so where it's located on the Tree of Life is down all the way at the bottom of the Tree of Life in a place called Malkuth. Malkuth means kingdom, or Malkut, I think that's the way you actually say it. And here we have her quiescent here. Incidentally, Donald Trump also has a 40/4 vibration, but it is not his quiescent, it is his path of life. Your path of life or your life lesson is something that you aspire to get good at. Your quiescent is something that you already possess. And so Ruth as a soul or as a personality is adept at dealing with these crises, right? Dealing with and then structuring the structure of things, like really understanding what it takes to build foundations and structures that will stand. The 40/4 is a Pisces vibration. It's a Pisces vibration. And so she was a Pisces. She had her sun in Pisces, she had Sirius in Pisces, and she had her North Node in Pisces. And so your North Node is your direction of your destiny, right? So she already had a lot of experience moving in the direction of that destiny. And we'll see that in her chart as well. So we have her soul, 16, the Tower. We have her outer personality, 40/4, the Page of Cups. If we add those two together, we get the expression vibration, the balance number for her. And when we do that, we get a 56/11. This is the vibration of the 56/11. Okay. This is somebody who utilizes her intuition and acts when the time is right. This is about balance. It's about poise. It's about waiting for the right moment. It's also a vibration associated with Libra. And Libra is the sign associated with law. And we'll see a lot of the energy of Libra and the energy of Jupiter, which is also associated with law in her chart. Okay, so this is how she finds her balance. Now, it's located in the Tree of Life in a place called Hokmah. Hokmah is the place of the divine masculine, And so, to a certain extent, she had to move into a man's world. She had to work within a man's world in order to come in and do what it is that she needed to do, how she would impress herself upon the world. And it is located energetically in the third eye chakra. So she would have to utilize her intuition. So we're dealing with somebody who can utilize her intuition, her will, and her psychicness, her psychic abilities being Pisces and having that 40/4 vibration as an outer personality vibration. And then we have her path of life. And the path of life, unlike the soul and the quiescent, and unlike the expression, is not something that she may have had a handle on when she came into this world this time. Was her lesson. This is what she was here to learn. And this we get from her birthday. And when we add her birthday, 3/15/1933, which incidentally is a 16 vibration. So everybody born in 1933 has that vibration as a year vibration. So that matters as well. That matters as well. Donald Trump's year vibration, 1946, I believe, is a 20 vibration, which is the final judgment card, which is the awakening. So his function, to a certain extent, was an awakening of some sort, and everybody born in 1946 has that vibration, and to a certain extent has the energy of awakening, right? Now, is Donald Trump awakening himself? I don't know, but he's certainly waking us up. If we add her day of birth, we get a 34/7, another 7 vibration. And so part of her journey in this lifetime was to continue to analyze. The 34/7 vibration is, hold on, I have the card right here, is this vibration, the 8 of Wands, very psychic, a lot of information coming, and how do you organize that information? So we're dealing with somebody who's exceptionally bright, exceptionally psychic, and a lot of information. And how does she organize that information, right? This particular place on the Tree of Life, Hod, is associated with Mercury. Okay, well, here's Mercury. And here's her life lesson. Hod is also in the solar plexus. So not only is her soul in the solar plexus, so the force of her purpose on the planet, but she also had to learn how to navigate the physical plane through her life lesson, 34/7. Now, this is important because Mercury becomes very important in her chart. And when we get to her chart, you'll see what I mean. How important Mercury was to her, as well as her Mars, because she has her soul in Mars. And where she has her expression, this particular place on the Tree of Life is associated with the entire zodiac, but also specifically with Uranus. So Uranus might prove to be prominent in her chart as well. And in fact, it is. She has Uranus square her Pluto. And right now, we just came out of a Uranus square Pluto, didn't we? 5 times. But this was a different. This was This was a last quarter square. The square that we experienced between 2012 and 2015 was a first quarter crisis in action square. The square that's in her chart, 1933, is the last quarter square, crisis in consciousness. And of course, 1933 was right around the time that the fascists and Hitler took over. It started to grow in Germany, right? 1933, 34, 35, 36, I think. Although I can't say that I know for sure because my history is a little rusty. But that general vicinity. And the square between Pluto and Uranus was significant in what occurred during that Second World War. Okay. So let's look at her shadow, because this is the last vibration I like to look at. And her shadow is a 1 vibration. And we get the shadow, it's a 28/1 vibration. And the 28/1 is this vibration. Oops, this vibration. I just dropped the vibration on the floor. Oh, goodness gracious, what did I do with it? I just had it. Oh, maybe it's up here. Sorry, guys. It is not. The 28 over 1 is the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands. Oh, here it is. It's right in front of me the whole time. Isn't that funny? Two of Wands. So this is her shadow. The shadow is located in Hokmah, right where her expression is located. And when you have a one shadow, especially with this vibration, this 28-1 vibration, there is a sense of being impulsive, right? Being maybe perhaps too impulsive. Getting into things before you're ready, or one can be a sense of non-self as a shadow, or it can be a shadow that has to do with only seeing your point of view. I can't say that that was her shadow. The thing with the shadow is pretty personal. And this may be something that we don't necessarily know about her. Donald Trump's shadow is also a 1. It's a different one. It's a 37-1. It's the King of Cups. His shadow is very evident because he sort of comes from his shadow. He works. His wound is very, very evident. But she is a much more, she's a much older soul, much wiser soul. And this could have been a personal life thing that I don't know anything about. So I'm just going to say that it is that 28 over 1 vibration, which is an Aries vibration. And we'll see things in her chart. We'll see she does have Aries in her chart prominent. She has a Mercury in Aries. Now remember, Mercury was the Sephiroth where she had her life lesson. And so when you have your life lesson in Hod and you have Mercury in Aries, part of the lesson is to, not jump to conclusions necessarily. Her Mercury is retrograde. So her soul set it up so that she couldn't do that. And I feel as though the healing perhaps had already occurred before she got here or shortly after, earlier in life, because it hasn't actually harmed her. It seems to have helped her. When you heal your shadow, it becomes what you bring forth onto it's like the gift that you give. And a 1 is a pioneer, is somebody who's willing to be the first to, or willing to like fight. It's a spiritual warrior, really, energy. Fight for what is right or what they deem is right. So that's her shadow. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to look at her astrology. So let me change my share here, share a different screen. Okay, that's not it. All right, so we're here, and we're going to look at this for sure. This is her with the new moon that occurred the day before her death. But let's look at her chart. Now, this is a noontime chart. We don't have an accurate time of birth for Ruth, and so we have to go by the noontime chart. I've read where they say the noontime chart because the sun is at the highest peak and the most evident. This is how people will see you, like from the outside in. This is how people observe you. And so it's very much, it's very accurate, actually, to how I think we see her. First of all, she's got Pluto in Cancer in the first house. Cancer is about women, children, birth, right? Pluto is transformation. And so she worked tirelessly for the rights of women to decide what they want to do with their body and what they want to do with their lives. The fact that they didn't just have to be mothers or appendages to their husband, that we could have credit cards, and that women couldn't have credit cards until I think 1974 or something. They could be on their husband's credit card, but they couldn't get their own credit. I mean, that's how crazy that is. So she really did, from this chart anyway, we can really see how she has changed things. Here we have that Uranus in the 10th house there in Aries. This is also somebody who's a pioneer, somebody who breaks barriers. This is a paradigm buster. And of course, we have a very tight square between Pluto and Uranus. And this is a last quarter crisis in consciousness square. So this is her soul, Pluto, and her higher self, or her higher mind, Uranus, her individuated unconscious part of herself, is a example of questioning authority and questioning the authority of father, right? Capricorn. It's a last quarter square. It has the energy of Aries and Capricorn. So it's fighting the man, kind of, in a certain respect. So we can see that just with her transpersonal planets. Her personal planets, we see she has her sun in Pisces. That goes along with her quiescent being in Pisces, right? The 40/4. She also has Venus in Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So she has a fine sense of aesthetics. Pisces is very often associated with music. She was a great fan of opera. I think she had Placido Domingo sing to her. I mean, how exciting was that, right? And my first thought when after she passed, and you get over the initial like sadness of it, was I just saw her and Scalia like going to a concert and listening to Pavarotti sing with the Angels. I mean, that was the first vision I had. So she took a little, like, she saw her husband, she brought him along, but she got to, do what she loves on a higher level. Just a little break after all the work she did. Now she's working. I feel like she's working. She's holding the door open, like many of these great Americans who have recently passed. Cummings and John. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. It'll come to me. I sometimes have trouble with remembering names. Old age, yikes. All right. So she has all this Pisces. She also has her North Node in Pisces and Ceres. Ceres is the goddess of the grain. She's a mother goddess. She's also a goddess of grief around children. And she, as a proponent for a woman's right to choose to do with her body what she will, she also understood the grief that brings to women. I know a number of women, many women actually, more than most people would probably imagine, who've had to make that choice, and it's never been an easy choice for them. Never been. It is a soul, to a certain extent, soul changing choice that you make when you choose not to have a child. And so she understood that, but she also understood that the choice had to be made because too many people were dying, and too many women were suffering, and too many women were in prison because they couldn't, there was no birth control. All right, so we have her South Node in Virgo. She has Mars in Virgo. Remember, her soul vibration is a 16/7, which is associated with Mars and her will. So she has that Mars in Virgo, very different than Mars in Leo, like somebody like Trump has, right? South Node in Virgo, Neptune in Virgo, and Jupiter in Virgo. So is this her first time, like, being a lawyer? Probably not. Probably not her first time being a judge. But in this incarnation, she was a real trailblazer. The fact that the ruler of her North Node is conjunct her South Node means that she brings this knowledge of Neptune to her future. Mars here. Now, Mars in Virgo is not always considered a particularly powerful position for Mars, because Mars in Virgo tends to be very analytical. They don't push themselves unless they absolutely positively know that they're on the right track. And that's almost impossible for a Virgo, because the right track would be the track of perfection. And so they are perfectionists, which can be a problem. Having the North Node in Pisces probably allowed her to actually get something done and not wait till it was perfect. She had an understanding that this has got to be good enough at this point, right? Not to say that what she did wasn't amazing. It's just that with Virgos, you can sometimes never actually get to the other side of something because you're so caught up in the fact that it's not perfect. but there is no perfection. And that's something that Virgo has to realize, and certainly a North Node of Pisces has to realize. But she has Mars conjunct Neptune, and Neptune is the energy of mass consciousness. So she, and with Jupiter there, makes everything bigger. She is a real sort of engine for the shifting consciousness of the masses, and we saw that certainly in her career as the second justice, Supreme Court justice. All right, so let's see what else is going on. So her path of life is a 34/7 found in Hod on the Tree of Life and connected to Mercury. So where does she have her Mercury? Oh, there's her Mercury right up there, up high in Aries. Mercury in Aries is going to be a pioneer. Mercury in Aries is going to be a spiritual warrior of sorts. She also had that 28-1 vibration, which is connected to the sign of Aries as her shadow. And so she would have had to overcome impulsiveness. And the fact that she has Mercury retrograde says to me that she had just enough impulsiveness to move forward. Like that also helped all that South Node and Virgo stuff. It pushed it enough. And when you heal your shadow, it becomes the gift that you give. And I think that we can say that her gift was her mind and her willingness to break barriers, which is very much an Aries thing. When Aries is the first sign of the tropical zodiac, and the symbol of Aries is thought to be the ram's horns. But if anybody is a gardener, they realize that when you plant a seed, the primary leaves, the first leaves, the ones that push out of the earth, look just like that. And so there's this energy of having to push out against something crusty. And what would be crusty, or the most crusty thing would be the patriarchy. So she's had to push against the patriarchy. All right, let me just pause for a second. I do have to take that phone call. So just give me a second, guys. Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Appointment. Take it. All right, so let's look at the chart, her chart, and the new moon that occurred the day before she passed to see if we can see anything going on in her chart. Now, her chart is not accurate because it's a noontime chart, and sometimes you can see sometimes you can see death in a person's chart, but usually you see it in the charts of the people closest to them. Because death for most people is not a big deal, but it certainly is a big deal for the people who are left behind. And as I understand it, the one that you see most like, the planet that you see most active in the death chart is actually Jupiter, because Jupiter is the planet of freedom, and ultimately death is a freedom from the physical shell. And so let's just look at Jupiter. Again, it could very well be that Jupiter went into her 8th house, or Jupiter went into her 12th house, or Jupiter went over her ascendant. We don't know, because we don't know what her ascendant is. But let's take a look at Jupiter anyway. Here's Jupiter right here, and she has Jupiter in her. Well, this isn't an accurate chart, so I'm not going to go there. But she has it in Virgo, and we have Neptune in an opposition to that Jupiter. Neptune is a planet associated with dissolution, so that could be that. And this has been going over her Jupiter for about 2-3 years now. It was exact probably 2 years ago, but it's still like sort of an orb. And so she's been fighting this. And Jupiter is connected to the liver. And I think they found spots on her liver from the pancreatic cancer. So that's interesting. So we can see that. And both Jupiter and Neptune are energies of expansion. And of course, the greatest expansion would be the expansion out of the body, right? So we can see that. But again, this is more of a long-standing, so she wouldn't have just like died suddenly. This would have been a process. And we certainly know that she has been through quite a bit. We also have Vulcan. Vulcan is a esoteric planet that I'm experimenting with because I can't get it off my system. So I always look to see what it's doing. And Vulcan, which was the god who made Zeus's thunderbolts, so in a way, the original military-industrial complex, I guess, but he was the power behind the throne. If it wasn't for his ability to forge thunderbolts, Zeus would just be a guy running around, boffing women. Who would be afraid of him, But he had thunderbolts, and he had thunderbolts because of Vulcan. And so we have Vulcan conjunct Jupiter. And so I'm not exactly sure what that means yet, but I thought I would mention it. And if anybody has any ideas about that, I'm open to that. All right. So the thing that I saw that was probably, except for this, which I don't really quite understand, sorry about that, I'm working on it, is this Chiron sitting on her Mercury. And significant because that Mercury is both connected to her path of life through the 34/7, and connected to her shadow through its connection to Aries, right? Aries, the 28/1 shadow vibration. And we have Chiron here. And Chiron is the wound. It's a wound of identity. It's a wound of it could be the wound of the toxic masculine. It could be the wound of not having enough yang force, okay? Kind of being a doormat, perhaps. This is not her. This is not her issue. But just as Chiron in Aries. And it's sitting on her Mercury. And Chiron also holds within it the cure to the disease. And so there is the fact that Chiron is sitting on her Mercury. Very often I feel when people pass, especially noted people, people who were popular in their lifetime, when they pass, they actually get more popular. And so her voice, right? Her voice, Mercury, what she had to share, Mercury, her path of life, Mercury, the root of her wounds, Mercury in Aries. There's Chiron up there. And it's an opportunity for a healing for her and also a healing for us. And so everything that she stood for, now that she is out of body, is what she stands for, right? And so that can grow on its own and in its own way, and will be a light on the path for many to come. I think that there are a lot of young women who don't realize just how hard it was merely 40 years ago to be a woman, and still is very hard. Now, young women don't maybe realize how hard it was to be a woman 40 years ago, and men don't realize how hard it is to be a woman every single day of your life. So we're all becoming aware, we're all becoming awake through this process. And she was really a beacon, a real beacon for us. Now we can also see, I don't know if you noticed this, but we have Pluto opposite Pluto. Well, that's interesting. And Pluto square her Uranus. So we have Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter in this Capricorn clump opposing her Pluto, squaring her Uranus. This is her rebel. This is the rebel. And this is making that, to a certain extent, the basis for a new reality, folks, a new reality, one based on equality. Okay. Pluto is the world soul. Saturn brings the structure. Jupiter expands it. This is a new reality. And she has brought that to us, and it's up to us to take it and run with it. It's up to us to hold the torch in whatever way you hold the torch. But this was her way. And she was a beautiful soul, and she's going to be sorely, sorely missed. Namaste, Ruth. Namaste. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe if you would like to have a reading like this for yourself. I do that. It's called a Kabbalistic life reading. I need your day, time, place of birth, and your full name at birth, and we can get started on that. You can purchase that on my website. It's the first reading listed, actually. It's 90 minutes. I do it on Zoom, and I record it, and you have it for posterity. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We are still accepting students for my Saturday class. That's going to start on the 26th. That's this coming Saturday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's kind of early on the West Coast. I'm sorry about that. But I tried to make it available, to everybody. And I had to pick a time. So that was the time I picked. But I could be doing, time, the weeks that I do a 6-week class. So I'll be probably having another beginner's class. I'm thinking January, because 6 weeks would take us into December. And it's hard for people to do stuff like that at the holidays. Although this is 2020, so who knows? The holidays are going to be different, just like everything else about 2020. But I'm probably going to start that in January. But again, I'll keep you guys posted. You don't have to worry about that. If you want to do that beginner's class, I'm also developing. I actually have developed it. I can't say I'm developing it. It's been developed. I just have to take the class that I taught and put it on the computer, because now I do it on Zoom. An introduction to Kabbalah, which is really exciting. We're going to talk about the different Sephiroth, and then we can talk about how we get the numbers. It's all very, very exciting. So you yourself can sort of dabble with this as well. It's a lot of fun. You can get a lot of information from this. So I'll let you go. Like and subscribe. Love to you all. And just one more thing. I did a reading with Marianne, right? And it was wonderful, and a lot of people enjoyed it. But some people noticed that I had the wrong day for the inauguration. I had it the day before, and that was my mistake. And I apologize to you all, and I apologize to Marianne profusely. But there wasn't that much of a difference in the chart between the 19th and the 20th. So everything that was pretty much said, for the most part, will still be an accurate sort of delineation of that chart. So, all right, guys, love you all. Namaste.